Let's talk about One Piece Odyssey. This is the long-awaited JRPG adaptation of a well-beloved anime. So how did it turn out? Is it something fans of the series should be picking up right away, wait for a sale, or outright skip it? Let's go over a bit of the story and how the gameplay works, then my final thoughts on the pros and cons and who should be buying One Piece Odyssey. It was developed by ILCA Inc. and published by Bandai Namco. It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and is currently going for $59.99 US. The story of One Piece Odyssey is an original one with character designs by Oda himself. It takes place as the Straw Hat Pirates are in the midst of exploring the new world as they're swept up in an awful storm and crash their ship into an island. Stranded and a bit split up, they explore the island, meet some new characters, one of which causes all of the pirates to lose their powers, and now they must solve the mystery of the island and relive old memories, literally, with some new changes to gain their strength back. The gameplay is primarily split up into three parts: story, combat, and exploration. Let's go over the story and exploration first. As mentioned before, the Straw Hats are stranded on this mysterious island without their powers. You start out very weak at level 1 and slowly regain your skills through memory cubes, which are scattered around the island. Through chapters, you'll go through several open areas linked to each other, fighting enemies, gathering loot, talking to NPCs, doing main and side quests, and conquering dungeons. You can run around as each pirate and use their special field skills to traverse the land, craft, cook, etc. Dungeons have puzzles to solve, and looting and crafting gives you new consumables, temporary buffs, and equipment to customize your character stats. While gathering cubes, you'll come across large ones that can't be absorbed back by normal means. In this case, you'll actually go in the cube and relive old past arcs. For example, the first one you go into is Alabasta, which is one of the larger pre-time skip events. You enter it as your current selves, and the goal is to pretty much deal with the crisis as you did back then. However, the twist is that the memories are vague and foggy. Things will play out differently, and enemies which were then weak are now strong. Next up is the combat. Being a JRPG, it's expected to be turn-based. When entering combat from the open areas, it takes place on a separate battle screen. Here you control 4 characters at once and can take on upwards of 4 to 10 or so enemies at once. Turns depend on enemy speed. When they're charging up, you can choose any of your pirates to take an action. There's basic attacks, which replenish TP, which are mana points, and can sometimes inflict debuffs, knockbacks on certain enemies. Skills, which do lots of different things. It can be as simple as a strong attack to a single enemy, multiple enemies, buffs, debuffs, heals, and position advantages. The largest combat gimmick of One Piece Odyssey here is the swapping out and positioning. Basically, as mentioned before, you have 4 characters at once. They all have their paper, rock, scissors attributes of strength, technique, and speed, as well as other resistances to lightning, fire, etc. When combat starts, you and enemies are placed in locations on the battlefield. This determines which characters can be attacked from short and long range. You can push back and move around the field to manipulate advantages and disadvantages, tank and protect others, support from afar, etc. And that's pretty much One Piece Odyssey in a nutshell. There's a lot more in-depth mechanics with this being a JRPG, like level progression, the crafting, combining things, etc. But this is pretty much all you need to know going in. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty review portion now. Okay, so guys, I have to say, One Piece Odyssey, I was going in expecting a lot. However, this is going to be really hard to recommend. It's good in a lot of aspects, but in others it falls terribly short. Let's start with one of the really good things here though. The theming of it. I think this is a great game for One Piece fans in general. This story, though it's not canon or anything, it feels like a really fun filler arc that has a lot of fan service. These original characters and story are by Oda himself. I think the graphics are very well done, smooth, lots of details in the character models, some hit and miss in the environments itself, but honestly, it's more than I expected, coming from published by Bandai Namco. I played on a PS5, and there's a 60 FPS performance mode on there. I'm not sure if it's on PS4, and I'm pretty sure Steam should be 60 FPS as well. But if you are playing the performance mode to hit 60 FPS, it's locked to 1080p, but honestly, it's way better than playing at 30 FPS with a higher resolution. Speaking of 30, it's kind of jarring if you do play on PS5, because a lot of the cutscenes are 30 FPS, and then you switch over to the gameplay section, and then it goes to 60. So the back and forth thing, it's a little jarring, but you kind of get used to it. There's original anime voice actors here, which is awesome. There's lots of spoken dialogue, more than I was expecting. I obviously knew that there was going to be, in the large open cutscenes, we're doing the events, yeah, dialogue. But then there's a lot of like chill ones where you're just seeing text boxes, your characters standing around, and they're talking a good amount there.
なるほど。これを切り替えて雷を扉までつなげれば扉が開くのか。
Obviously, they don't want to do all of the side little NPC stuff, but it's good that there's a decent amount even in the main and some story stuff. It's good to relive the old arcs in new lights. You get to see characters back in the day, locations. A lot of these characters I haven't even seen in over like 10 years watching the anime back in the day. But, the theming, as just mentioned, that's probably the best thing going for it. The other big part of the game, which actually had me excited the most, which is the combats. Man, unfortunately, I think it is potential wasted. Now, it's really hard to get a JRPG right. Here they got the basics down, of all the mechanics. You got different attacks for all the characters. You got the rock, paper, scissors, resistances, items, consumables, buffs, skills. Everyone does their own thing. You can play different parts, equipments, lots of things to collect, level up, progression. It has all of the JRPG staples that could make it a pretty average, decent game. The largest gimmick here is the swap out and positioning things. There are so many variables and choices here at any points. They give you a really nice tutorial at the beginning of the game before they strip away all your powers. You start at level 40, you have most of all the characters there, and they have all of their skills. It's like, oh my god, there's so many things, and it really got me excited of what the combat could be in the game. But they made the decision to make it as accessible as possible. I guess they thought it could be too overwhelming to absolute RPG beginners. I can see that, but the problem here is that it was too easy. Almost to the point that it is insulting. To JRPG fans, it's pretty embarrassing. For new players, there is no sense of, of gratitude, of making it easy to hard and having that, progression. Almost all the different enemies in the game, basics, elites, and even some of the bosses, they die way too easily and don't require a lot of strategy. They give you all these mechanics, as I mentioned before, running away, putting enemies in different locations, having people tank, buffing, items. You don't have to do a lot of it. There are some instances where you need to think about it, but for the most part, my god, you can kind of play this a little mindless. Another interesting thing about the game is the progression. You over level as you play, and I'm not even talking about running around grinding areas. Just basically fighting all the enemies in your path. You end up with encounters that give you so much experience, and they do this in a sense where it's called like randomly you go into a battle, and they call it dramatic scenes, where you have to do something specific. This is a cool idea, where basically like, oh, you go into this battle and Luffy's alone. Oh my god, everyone save Luffy in one turn, and then you get like a 10 times experience or something like that, which is cool. It changes it up a little bit, but man, they really drop too much experience on you. There's a lot of side quests with new characters and old, which is cool, right? But why would you want to skip these? If the theme is the strongest, you want to see the Easter eggs and relive the old arcs. But if you don't skip them, you're going to be too overpowered. But if you do skip it, there's no point doing that. It's kind of counterintuitive. There's a no difficulty option here, and I think that would have kind of fixed everything I had. If they increase the stats of some enemies, make them more enemies in battles, a harder AI. Why do they not have this option? it's very boring if you're used to I don't even want to say challenging games. You know, anything like Persona stuff, Shin Megami Tensei, man, it's not engaging. It makes you really want to zone out. They should have just, made it an action RPG instead of a turn-based one. Besides over leveling, you gain so much items and equipment from exploring. So again, you get kind of punished with a boring easy game if you decide to go off the beaten path just a little bit. I was really excited for this game. I love the narrative, but man, the gameplay is not that great. But it felt like they got scared and made it too easy to appeal to a mass audience. I understand what they were going for, but it just doesn't work here. As mentioned, if it was an action JRPG, it could have worked. Just make it more in-depth and impactful over the Pirates Warriors. I did play those games. Those are fun as a Pirates game. But, those are hordes of enemies. If they made this one, more compact with smarter, tankier enemies and some strategy, then, a beat 'em up could have worked too. I don't know. I was just really disappointed with this gameplay outcome. But yeah, the story itself is fun. The comedy, I would say, is a little hit and miss. I get what they were going for, but it's hard to get the laughs and timing right in dialogue box formats. Sometimes it works. You get like funny facial expressions and gestures. And yeah, while the dungeons here and exploration elements are kind of simple too, there's at least a lot to pick up in some areas, and some are very well detailed and fun to look around and walk around. So guys, to sum up, this is a great One Piece theme. You got the good graphics, the sounds, original voice actors, amazing reimagining of the arcs, a lot of twists and turns here. Pretty cool. Most of these are pre-time skip, and some later, which I won't spoil. I would say you're looking around a 20 or so hour-long game. It's really hard to estimate, but if you go fast and rush, you'll probably hit 15 to 20 hours. Other than that, I would say, if you take your time, 30 to 40 hours. If you choose to slog through a very easy game, collecting, side questing, talking to everyone, and just taking it all in. I should also mention that, it has a lot of JRPG pacing as well. So you're going to see lots of dialogue, walking around, sometimes even back and forth things, treading. It's a chill game. It's a very, very chill game with some good moments, especially in the story department. It just feels like it takes a bit to get to the good stuff, and kind of a lot of fluff in between. So I would recommend One Piece Odyssey if you love the franchise, this series, and you simply want more story. This is, like I said, this is like a filler game, a filler arc, but it kind of fits, Just be wary of the very easy and wasted gameplay potential. I talk down to the gameplay. It's not, particularly mindless, but, being an RPG nut myself, playing it for decades, it felt like they could have just done more here. And it's really surprising that they did not come out any sort of difficulty options. If they wanted to make the game accessible, why didn't they also just give us the option for hardcore players too? There's no reason to master the game. There's potential there, the mechanics are there. I can see this being really fun and strategic, but there's no challenge, so as I mentioned, there's no point to master it. But if the gameplay stuff doesn't bother, then go for it. Honestly, I played a lot of the One Piece games that have come out over the years. This is probably one of the best ones to date. A lot of budget went into this. I just really expected more. I'd say fans of the game should deserve a lot more. But once again, the story solid, but the gameplay, oh my god. I'd say it's not worth the full price. I would wait for a sale of 20% off. I don't know, $30 to $40, and then you're solid to go. And that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like. It helps a lot. If you haven't already subscribed for more videos, if you're interested in seeing my gameplay Let's Play of One Piece Odyssey, I'm uploading it on my Let's Play channel called MabiVsGames 2. And of course, I live stream all this on my Twitch, so please follow me there. Join the Discord, blah, blah, all that good stuff. Now, comment below, what do you guys think of this game? Were you excited? Do you not know anything about One Piece? What do you think about the gameplay? Am I being too harsh on it? Is it too easy? Is it too hard? Blah, blah, blah. What have they should have done in general? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.